To ladies and women across the country, really, people we know that inspire us and are on a journey to finding their sweet spot.
The sweet spot.
Watching peanuts dribble.
All right, we are back. Hello, Sarah. Can you hear me? Sarah, are you muted?
I was muted. I was muted.
I was like, I see you.
That's the thing for 2020, right? You're muted.
You're muted. What's going on?
Oh, how are you?
It's Friday. I went shopping. I want to show off my shirt. Can you see it? Isn't it nice?
That's so nice. Is that like a yellow, or?
I think it's like velour yellow, right? Kind of old school. I went to Lark. The girls and I went because we had like a little gift card there, and so we went shopping. And so I got a nice soft little shirt that I just love.
Oh. It looks so nice. You look so good in yellow.
Thank you. I know that's funny because I bought two things from there and they're both yellow. So
it was funny because I saw somewhere today that like the color, like how she was talking about the color of the year.
Right. Oh, that's right.
Like I could not pronounce the name, but it was like a yellowish
okay.
color. So
okay.
You're totally ahead of the game.
Didn't she say it was teal was the color of the year for 2020?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, she did. Maybe I was looking at some from last year. I don't know.
No.
Oh, how'd your week go?
It was fine.
Yeah. So, how's Christmas shopping for you? Like, do you do it all at once? Do you do it ahead of time? Do you wait till last minute?
Yeah, I'm ahead of the game this year. So, but I usually do it last minute kind of, but I've been pretty good about buying stuff like every other day. So,
nice.
How about you?
Yeah, I am usually like a frantic running around the last minute. But this year I am changing my ways and I am almost all done.
Nice.
I sent off all packages for like Chris's family. They're going to get their packages by the 18th and Ella's all done.
Nice.
Yeah. So
yeah, I'm like 80, maybe 85% done. That's not bad for me. I mean, it's like December 12th or something. I don't know. I'm kind of proud of myself. Or is it the 11th? I can't remember.
Yeah, I don't know either. Somewhere in December.
It's December, right? It's almost, God, the year's almost over.
We gotta hang in there. We're gonna do this. We got it.
Right? It's gonna be okay. Just like, oh yes. Yeah. Remember we used to do that?
Yeah, I know. Remember, what was that guy's name from The Bachelor? Was it Juan Carlo?
Oh, I don't know. I never watched that show.
It's okay.
It's okay. It's okay.
Just do that to ourselves. It's okay.
Yes, it's gonna be fine. Got a couple more weeks to go.
Yeah.
So it looks like we've got a couple people that are joining us. Today we're talking about mommies and nutrition. Hi, Nadine. Yeah, so say hello. Let us know how many kids you got. And I mean, even though we've got two amazing women that are going to talk to us about, how to support women that are pregnant or postpartum or even like kids, what that all looks like. They're going to have some really good advice for us and direction. And you don't necessarily need to be a mom that just had a baby either. I think there's some stuff, I'm sure, some good stuff that I can learn, even though I have teenagers. So,
Yeah. And I'm excited too. I love Katie. I haven't met Emma yet. But Katie and I used to work together, and I love the passion that she brings around this. Her little one is 2 or maybe close to 3,
yeah,
and I think like so much of the conversation for me, even though my kids are almost grown, is like, how can I support new moms that come
right,
into my life?
exactly.
Like, what can I learn? Because my
Yeah,
kids, my girls might decide to have kids one day, and how can they be better prepared? And because
yep.
I just feel like we haven't done a good job of really,
That's a good point.
yeah, supporting new moms. And so I really want to be an advocate for when new moms come into my life, however they come, like
Right.
be ready
But
to support
also, I like what you're saying, but also I think about like how, I've got two teenage girls. So how can I, prepare them for to be a mom? Like, what are some things
them.
that because right now I'm kind of focused on getting them out of the house, like how do I prepare them to go to college? But then also, I mean, the next step is like, how can we prepare them to be um, healthy mommies and healthy pregnant mommies? And
Yeah.
after you have the baby, how can you just learn and understand? And what are some things that I can impart in them now so that they become, begin to think about that?
Yeah, the whole idea, the thing I love about Katie is really advocating for new mom. Like I feel like she's really much better at that than I was. I felt like
Yeah,
I need to put the baby's needs above my own
right,
in spite of myself, kind of, which I don't think is
right,
a healthy thing. Um,
exactly.
of course, it's tiring in general, right? And yeah, you're going to lose sleep and all that stuff. But I think I could have done a way better job of nourishing myself
Yeah, exactly. Taking care of yourself.
nutritionally, yeah,
Mhm,
emotionally, spiritually,
mhm.
because it is so
And
hard.
it is. And we've got Dr. Emma on, and so I'm excited about that because um I just started doing chiropractic care a couple years ago and I got in a car accident. And so I'm a firm believer. I've already taken my teenage girls to a chiropractor before, and I'm excited to learn about like what's her advice. And what kind of treatment does she do for pregnant moms and after they have a baby and even for kids? It looks like she does some chiropractic care for kids too. So let's
Yes.
bring them on. Let's talk
Yay.
to them and meet them. They have been waiting so patiently in agreement. There's Katie and Emma. Hello.
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 How's it?
Katie.
Hi. Hi, Sarah. And hi, Emma. And hi, Lenora.
Hello.
Hello. Nice to meet both of you.
Nice to meet you too.
So Katie, do you want to go first? You want to tell us what do you do? What's going on? How
Yeah.
are you helping ladies get their sweet spot?
Yeah. So I wear a couple of hats, but I think the main hat that I got brought on to talk about today is the nutrition and lifestyle side of supporting either couples or females who want to get pregnant. So in the preconception fertility phase, in throughout the prenatal pregnancy, um, knowing what foods help nourish a body, help nourish the baby, to help ease possible pregnancy complications, and then postpartum, which seems to be the area I gravitate towards the most, especially. And as Sarah mentioned in the earlier, I do have a little one who's 2.5, and just going through each phase myself really highlighted how important the postpartum period is and how often moms just kind of get forgotten about. the baby's here, baby's healthy. And I mean, I can't tell you how many appointments we went to for my son, even in the first month of his life. And I had one appointment 6 weeks after the baby was born. And so I want to help support women or females feel like themselves again. And that's something that I've even had been struggling with. And I think over maybe the last even couple of months, I finally feel like I'm in my sweet spot or close to that sweet spot again. Right. So yeah, I don't know if that answers your question. I got kind of lost in my own thoughts there.
Yeah. Emma, how about you? Can you tell us a little bit about what you do and your specialty?
Yeah, I'm a chiropractor, and my practice is focused on the perinatal period and pediatrics. And perinatal is before conception, preconception, pregnancy, and postpartum. And I think all different phases of the perinatal period are very important to address both what mom needs and then what the growing baby and growing family need. And kind of like Katie was saying, a lot of times moms put all of their energy towards the new baby and they don't necessarily think about what's going to happen with themselves after the baby arrives. And so I like to help bring more attention to that period as well with perinatal and pediatric chiropractic care. My techniques in particular are very gentle, and we're looking more to bring the nervous system and the body back into a state of balance so that the brain can fully communicate to the body. And since the brain controls every single muscle, cell, organ, and tissue in the body, it's like our master control system. The better communication we have between the brain and the body, the easier the rest of the systems are going to function within the body, and the easier we're going to be able to manage stress and sleep and digest food and really just function day to day. And so it's equally as important for little ones and for the moms, and really the whole family can benefit in some way from having their brain talk to their body better.
Wow, how interesting.
Yeah.
Really cool. So I have a question. Go ahead, Sarah.
Oh no, I was just gonna say yes.
Yes,
we need more of that.
So I guess this
I know. Yeah.
No, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just thinking.
I know Katie and I have the connection from we used to work together, and we both have a background in performance psychology or sports psychology, which is so much about how the brain functions and how does the brain work and making that connection between the mind and the body. So this seems like a supernatural connection and transition for you, Katie, to be taking those same skills and those same theories and just applying it to a different population.
Yeah. What I interested in pairing the sports psychology with the nutrition was I found that for a lot of people, they're working towards maybe a particular health goal, or maybe it's pregnancy or postpartum, whatever it might be. And they might see a nutritionist or a dietitian and they just get a meal plan and be like, okay, here you go. And that's it. They don't get the additional support of changing their, working on the behavior changes, changing their mindset. A lot of this can be really, really difficult if you're used to eating a typical standard American diet, and all of a sudden your doctor says you need to eat more whole foods and kick out the processed foods or decrease your sugar intake. It can be really overwhelming. And so bringing in the, productive self-talk or working on different motivational strategies, or even just having a goal plan figured out and having you be a part of that, it just made sense to pair the sports psychology piece to the nutrition. And I know having that background, even for myself, has changed the way I eat and my own health over the last 3 or 4 years too.
So Dr. Emma, what are some and this, I guess this could go for you, Katie, also, like what are some common issues or challenges that people are coming to you with? Like what are the top ones that like you tend to hear more of those?
Sure. People for me tend to come during pregnancy, often with pain from carrying the belly. And so some of the things that we work on are improving posture, working on getting mom's center of gravity and baby's center of gravity to match up so that mom's body can better support the changing shape of the belly and the growing baby, and overall bringing balance and ease, especially to the pelvis, so that the baby has the room they need to grow and maneuver into the best position for birth, and allows mom's body to open during birth with as much ease as possible. And so decreasing pain, pregnancy pain is one of the big ones. With pediatrics, it's often they're having trouble with breastfeeding, or they're not sleeping as ideally as the family's hoping for, or they seem extra fussy. And all of that can be from holding tension in the body. Even the most easy natural birth is still a lot of work, both for mom and for baby. And sometimes, like for us as an adult, if you do a tough workout, the next day you might be a little stiff and sore. And that can often happen in children too, and they're not able to express it in the way adults are. And so they end up being fussy or having trouble sleeping, or they're not eating the way that you're hoping to. And sometimes it's just there's tension stuck in the body and it needs some help being released.
And you do that through chiropractic care?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah,
so cool.
there's no with infants and really through pregnancy, I don't do a lot of the popping, cracking, or twisting that you may associate with chiropractic care. My approach is very gentle, a low or no force, definitely working on more of the tone of the body to make things come to a state of balance, not making big structural changes with those manual adjustments.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Very interesting. How about you, Katie? What do
Yeah.
you hear about?
And before I answer that, I just want to just advocate for newborn chiropractic care. My son, when he was newborn till about 2 weeks, was really struggling with breastfeeding, and our lactation consultant recommended a pediatric chiropractor. And like that day, we had huge leaps and bounds in our breastfeeding journey, and it wasn't something I would have even considered was a thing for babies, let alone young children. So I'm just so glad I met Emma or Dr. Emma as well, because it's so important for our kids to get that. But then the question was, what like challenges do I see, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So a lot of it where I see the most is either preconception. So while a couple or even an individual is considering pregnancy and they're having a really difficult time getting pregnant. So a lot of people get put on hormonal birth control but aren't told about the side effects or the consequences of being on hormonal birth control for an extended amount of time, and how much that can deplete the body of key nutrients. And if you actually look at the nutrients that the pill tends to deplete, those are also the nutrients that are needed to make a baby. And so they go into that phase depleted, don't have almost like the right materials or the right nutrients to support a pregnancy. And so that's where I see a lot of challenges, is couples having difficulty getting pregnant. And then I feel like in pregnancy, that's where we get the most support. Everyone's advocating for the pregnant mom or the mom to be, and that's also where the mom optimizes her diet too. Like that's probably the phase that she eats the healthiest. And so pregnancy is actually, there's not too many challenges as far as like the work I see, but postpartum, again, like I mentioned earlier, that's where the mom gets forgotten about, and she's eating leftover scraps, for meals, or trying to eat one-handed while holding a newborn. Their partners go back to work. I know my husband went back to work a week after my son was born, and it's like, wait, I have to take care of a baby, but take care of myself? Like, how does that work? And so, so definitely postpartum is where we see like postnatal depletion, where everything that the body used to create this baby and then maybe continuing to nourish the baby through breastfeeding, the mom is left depleted, and I think, as Sarah mentioned earlier as well, the baby's needs always come first, and you keep thinking like, well, maybe I'll get better, maybe I'll get better. And I know that was me. It wasn't until 2 years postpartum it's like, maybe something isn't right here. And so I feel like the preconception and postpartum is where I just see like so many challenges for couples or for individuals.
That makes sense. I wish I would have known both of you when I was I didn't know anything about, So that's interesting. So I wonder, so how do you, I guess this is like more of a marketing question, because I like thinking back, I mean, my kids are 15 and 13, but how do you let people know about what you're doing? Because I never knew that this kind of thing existed. So how do you tell new moms about what you do?
Do you want to go first, Emma?
I mean, I would say that it's definitely still a learning process to see what works the best. A lot of women that are having children right now are using social media, and social media ads, joining the different local community groups or mom groups on Facebook, because moms will love to ask other moms for advice and questions. And so being able to help direct them, if I see somebody post about chiropractic, then I can make suggestion. But if they're looking for nutrition advice, then I know I can direct them to Katie. And I've taken some time to get to know others in our community so that I have the resources to share. Really, anytime I see a question and I know somebody that could help, I try to recommend that person to the mom, because they do need the care. Other than that, I think that's pretty much the main source of marketing for me right now.
Right.
Yeah.
And for me, just like Dr. Emma mentioned, connecting with other professionals in similar fields. So that's actually how Dr. Emma and I got connected on Instagram. I started following her and she sent a message and we just connected, and other lactation consultants, doulas, postpartum doulas, childbirth educators, lactation consultants, just letting them know what I do, but also so I have great referrals for them too, or for my clients to send to them as well. And I'm kind of like the old fashioned when it comes to marketing. I think COVID has thrown me for a loop, because I like to go out into the community and do workshops and, talk with people, but no one's doing that right now because So it was kind of hard to launch that this spring when COVID was in full force. But I think just more word of mouth, getting out there. I feel like social media can be hit or miss on if people even see your posts or your feeds, depending on what that week's algorithm is doing on either Instagram or Facebook. But
I think that's the key too, is, when I had my kids, like 2005 and 7, I mean, social media just wasn't as big as it is now. And so I just kind of relied on my doctor, and then also my classes that we took, before we had the baby. But, you just don't hear about this different kind of way of like medicine and treatment options from your doctor, which is unfortunate. You think that, that they'd have more information to give you, but I'm sure things are better now. Yeah. Sarah, do you have a question? You're back. You're a little crackly.
Uh-oh. Do you think things have changed, Lenora, from when we had our girls to now? Do you think there's an evolution really, or a growth in society about how new mom, like advocating for new moms? Do you think it's changing?
I think so. I mean, there's just more information at your hands too. Like we didn't have, the internet wasn't like it is now, and there weren't mommy groups on Facebook, and, there just wasn't the information. Just like a lot of businesses didn't have websites back in 2005. Like there just wasn't, the information just wasn't available like it is now. So that's what do you think? I don't know.
I think it's changed, and I mean, I wasn't I'm not a mom, and I wasn't a mom back then, but just with the people that I've worked with and the people that I communicate with on social media, it seems like some people are knowledgeable about the new options and changes. And I say new, but it really is old options. We used to do a lot of practices with community around pregnancy and childbirth, and we sort of drifted away from that. And so it seems like a lot of people are trying to bring back more traditional resources and ways of doing things that used to work so well for everybody before, because they had this community that was there to support them and help them through pregnancy and childbirth and taking care of a new baby. And it wasn't just the mom and the dad, or the mom and by herself, or however it ends up now. There was a lot more people that you could turn to and rely on.
Yeah, more support. Makes sense. So Katie, I heard you talk a little bit about nutrition. So what are some recommendations that you would give to moms on, like, especially, I think I heard you talk a little bit about, like, when they're pregnant, they're fine, they're eating really well. It's just when they get home with the kid, then it's like you're eating scraps or barely eating at all, and you're trying to breastfeed maybe. And so what are your recommendations on what they should be eating?
Yeah, and it's hard to give like really specific recommendations because it's
Right.
going to vary by
Depends.
culture and
Yeah.
also what time of year, because eating seasonally, I think is really important and local. But and this kind of touches on what Dr. Emma was just talking about, kind of like the traditional wisdoms of food to nourish you postpartum. And so I've read this really great book recently called The First 40 Days, which if anyone's watching who is expecting a little one, you need to pick up that book. But it just talks about eating like bone broth soups that are going to be healing for the body and warming foods. I know one of the meals I ate in the hospital was a salad, which now I just cringe thinking that, and like a milkshake. I think that was the first thing I had after my son came, which wasn't warming, wasn't helping my body just heal, and things that are easy on digestion, especially because your organs, they've all shifted as you've been carrying that baby in your belly. And so slow cooked, if you eat animal proteins, slow cooked meats, soft vegetables, really soft, warming, like think about like stews or things you would eat in the winter.
Like fall food, fall and winter food.
Yeah, which
makes sense.
I was trying to think like back when my son was born in July that year, and I don't know if it didn't cross my mind to eat something warming like that.
No,
like,
of course
I
not.
want like a smoothie or something, or salads, like I said. But especially those first, 40 days or 6 weeks, just really focus on soft foods that are also healing, avoiding refined foods if possible. I mean, I'm never an absolute, like you can't ever have sugar, you can't ever have refined foods, but just things that are minimally processed that our bodies were meant to eat, not things full of food dyes or artificial flavors or things like that.
Makes sense. I remember I had 2 C-sections, and that was like the first, like eating was like top of my mind, because, you have to not eat, and then you got to have the surgery. And then, so I was like, I'm so hungry, and I had to wait a little bit until my body was like performing correctly. And of course I wanted pizza. Like, I was like, and I didn't get it. They're like, no, you can't have that. You need to eat like, chicken broth, or, just Jello or applesauce. I'm like, oh. But eventually I think I probably had some nachos, and it didn't end well.
And I think with that, like now I'm thinking like if we have a second child, or this is advice I give to friends, clients, is to be prepared for those first couple of weeks postpartum, unless you have a meal train, but having those recipes ready to go in your freezer so you can easily toss them. Like one of my good friends, her mom made her a traditional seaweed soup, and that is that's rich of nutrients. And I was like, gosh, I wish I had that instead of the cheeseburger and milkshake I had. in the hospital, which even the hospital food wasn't that great. But
No.
you know, coming for maybe it's bringing in a cooler or a big thermos of soup that the mom can gently sip on while she's healing.
So Dr. Emma, can you tell us a little bit about, like, I know you can't go into detail about like what type of work you do if you have someone come in, but can you just kind of explain just a little bit like what's happening, what you're doing? Because I heard you say it's like gentle, you're not like doing like a hard crack. Can you tell us a little bit more like what you're doing? And you talked about the brain also. That was kind of interesting. Like, what are you doing to help the brain? Can you help my brain?
So chiropractic works with the nervous system. And a lot of people have a conception that it's more based on the musculoskeletal system, but what we're actually doing is impacting the receptors that we have near the spine or really near any joint in the body. And the receptor's job is to send information back up to the brain and back out to the body so that the brain can compare what's going on in the body right then with what it knows should be its normal neutral state. And so the body's always working to stay at kind of an even level with everything. We have instances where we'll go high and go low, but we always want to come back to that middle ground. And that's what the brain is doing. And when you go to get adjusted, that information comes up to the brain, and the brain may say, hey, you don't have to hold that muscle tight anymore. And it sends information back down so that the body can allow ease into that area of the muscle or allow the joint to start functioning normally again. So my job is to help facilitate your body to fix itself, to correct itself, to put itself back into balance. And sometimes we've been stuck in a pattern for so long that it takes time and repetition to get out of that pattern. And sometimes, like with children, it takes maybe 1 or 2 visits and you start to notice changes more immediately. They've had children, especially infants, have had less time in the world to build stress and experience different things that we store in our body. And so they can make change a lot faster. There was a new study, or new to me anyways, I read it earlier this year, about how as little as 1 chiropractic adjustment can actually decrease the stress hormones that are released in your body because it sends that information up to the brain, and the brain sends it back out to help you come back to a more balanced, even state. So, I mean, as little as 1 adjustment and we can help with the stress. We're all dealing with so much more stress this year than ever before. And so I think that's pretty profound.
Well, yeah, I mean, definitely for kids that are, just having to not being, they're just not able to see their friends and hang out like they've been before. And then the stress of, just all that Zoom classes and, just this different way of being, all this change. I think kids are stressed more. Their mental health is very fragile. And so I love that idea of, sounds like I need to have my girls go in and get adjusted. Sarah, do you have any questions? I know you've been kind of figuring out your camera there.
I know. I was listening to you all talk. I've been thinking a lot about like just my own experience and how easy it was for me to not make my own health a priority and my own nutrition a priority. Is there anything that you would say to new moms, or what do you say to moms that are, kind of think, oh, I don't know, I don't think I have time, or I don't, just if there's some resistance on a new mom's part. And I love how Katie keeps saying a couple does enter into a pregnancy, a lot of times together. And so it's like there's this dual responsibility for both people to take care of themselves, but then also support each other through this. So like, what do you say to people? I mean, do you have any like wise words, wisdom, like for people like me that were just not really good?
She left us. She'll be back.
At least from my standpoint, and I think this is where the sports psychology or performance psychology comes in, is I talk with the person and ask them like what beliefs they have about what a good mother looks like, what their role is as a person in this new family. and see, like, they might have the belief like a good mother always comes last, or a good mother always puts her needs of the family first, whatever it might be, and explore those beliefs and values she has, and see if those beliefs are in line with the values she has as a person. And I know I keep talking about myself, but I feel like it's still so raw. But
Oh yeah.
that was something that I really struggled with, was, I'm not going to get any sleep because my son needs me, or I'm going to be the one who gets up around the clock to take care of him because my husband has to go to a full-time job and work, and whatever it might be. And what I've learned, and what I continue to advocate or empower other people to do, is to ask for that support. That was something I was really stubborn about, and I let my ego get in the way of asking support, whether it was from my in-laws or my own parents. I mean, everyone's relatively local to us. I couldn't even get myself to ask, my mom to do my dishes, or, hey, could you do a load of laundry? Hey, actually I did ask my mom to make some food, but that ended after the first week or two. But encouraging the mother or the couple to ask for support, to get help. And like, as Dr. Emma was mentioning, we weren't meant to raise a baby on our own.
Right.
The village would come together and help this new mother. And that's long gone, when so many people are so far away from their family, and especially with COVID, where people aren't visiting each other necessarily or stopping by. I think so. Ultimately, working on those beliefs that mother has on what a good mom looks like, or what she thinks this phase is supposed to look like, and then helping her reframe or readjust that mindset, and being okay and normalizing that we need help during this time, that we're not meant to do this alone.
That's really good advice.
My advice is usually similar. I often will encourage moms or parents to ask for help. And if I'm working with a mom during pregnancy, then I like to start talking about postpartum really as early as possible. Like, most people plan for taking care of the baby and learning the baby's needs and wants and what the baby will need, and they don't think about themselves as often. And if they start to plan for postpartum, maybe they need to hire a postpartum doula that can come and help with housework or with cooking, or even watching the baby at night while the parents get some rest. Or maybe they need to pre-plan some of those freezer meals, like you were saying, Katie, or, just kind of getting a general guideline, not just for taking care of the baby, but caring for themselves as well, always asking for help, and really making it understood that it is okay to ask for help. And there are all these resources and providers available if it's too much for you or you and your partner, that there's other people that can be there. One thing that I encourage families to do during pregnancy is make a list of their either normal activities, or kind of not necessarily chores, but things that they would do during the day that they may not be able to do with a new baby, like vacuuming or playing with an older child, taking the dog for a walk. And that when somebody, not in this day and age, but in the future, hopefully, when somebody comes to visit, they can pull a task out of a box and help the family with one of those chores. Well, the mom or dad gets to spend time with the baby, and then the new person can spend time with the baby too. But they're kind of like paying a baby tax.
Yeah.
The family first.
Right. So it makes me, I know I've said this before, but it just makes me go back to why doctors don't give this type of advice, and why, again, when I went to our birthing class or whatever they called it, we didn't hear any of this really good advice at all. Well, at least I don't remember. It's possible that they did. I doubt it, though. Is there any reason why the doctor or even those parenting classes or birthing classes don't talk about this?
I think part of it is that the system has changed, where it's very time based. A lot of people don't spend a lot of time at all with their primary care doctor or their pediatrician. They're in and out pretty quickly. A nurse or assistant usually takes their vital signs, and they're there for a specific complaint without really being able to fully explain things. And so one of the other providers that I often recommend to people is to, you can have your primary medical doctor, but you may also want to check in with a functional medicine doctor or a naturopath or a chiropractor or somebody who typically is going to be able to sit down and talk to you a little bit longer to listen to some of those needs. One of
Yeah.
the things that I hear frequently in the office is that nobody asks all the questions that I tend to ask, or like really sits and listens the way that I do. And other chiropractors have said that as well. And I think just the system is different in the medical community.
Definitely. In the childbirth education class we took, it was touched on, like, to, take care of yourself or to make meals, but I didn't take it seriously. It was just like, okay, yeah, I've got this. Like, I was so naive. I didn't know what I was getting into. But now in hindsight, it's like maybe I should have taken that advice a little bit more seriously, or a lot more seriously for that matter. But yeah, I mean, even in the 6-week checkup after I had my son, I think it was maybe a 15-20 minute appointment. You fill out a survey to check for postpartum depression or anxiety. And then if everything checks out, you're good to go. There's no reason to come back until you need, your next checkup for other stuff. But yeah, it wasn't until my son was seeing his chiropractor that she asked me if I was okay. And I was like, what? No one asked me that.
Who's talking to me?
Yeah. And I mean, she could just see how overwhelmed I was. And I was just like, oh, someone's paying attention to me here. Interesting. Because, like we've been saying, the mother often gets forgotten.
Yeah, that's so true.
I have this memory. It just sparked, like, I was at church. Chloe, who's my oldest, she was maybe a couple months old, 2 or 3 months. I was still totally overwhelmed, probably like sweaty, from carrying her or whatever. And a mom came up, and she became a really dear friend. And she looked at the baby, and then she looked at me, and she said, "How are you?" And I started crying.
Oh,
because like no one had asked me that. Like I thought for sure she was gonna oogle over the baby, but then for her to just look at me and say, "How are you?" So I can so relate to that, Katie. That idea that we don't ask new moms, "How are you?" Like, really, how are you, and what can I do to help you?
Right.
Well, and that reminds me, I think, Sarah, I think you mentioned that earlier too, when we were kind of coming into the show, of like, how can this would be great because we'll get some ideas on how we can support our friends and family that are pregnant or postpartum. And I think that's a really good question that we should always ask. And then I think, I hear this a lot too, where, you have someone who's gone through something and you say, well, how can I help you? But maybe the better question is, how about I just do this for you?
Yeah.
Because I know, sometimes you'll ask people and they're like, I'm good, I'm okay, and they're really not. So sometimes it's like, how about if I just bring you guys a meal? And then, just whatever it is that you can see that you can help. I think it's just easier just to do it than just ask. It's so overwhelmed anyway sometimes.
Right. And sometimes I've asked some of my friends, I'll ask them, how are you doing after they just had their baby? And they'll go into their full spiel about how the baby's doing. And I said,
right,
that's great. I'm so glad. But I want to know how you're doing. How, what I don't want to say, what can I do? Because we just talked about not doing that and just stepping in and doing something. But even if they deflect and talk about the baby, like, bring it back to them and, look them in the eye if you're across from them, or just really check in on them regularly too. Because a lot of times it can be really, really isolating, and it would be weeks before I would hear from somebody. And yeah, you feel like you're forgotten a lot of the time.
Mm-hmm. It also reminds me of, when there's baby showers happening and we get all these wonderful gifts for the baby. And we forget about the mom. Sometimes we don't get anything for the mom. And so it's nice to also shower the mom with some gifts also. And probably that book that Katie, you were saying, the first 40 days, I think it sounds like it would be a great book to give any new mom.
Yeah, as a baby shower gift before the baby comes.
Right?
And even in that book, she has like a wish list of things that you can put onto your registry, but that are for you as the mom. So maybe it's even some specialty ingredients to add to those nourishing soups or different meals that you would need to go to a specialty store, not just Fred Meyer or Safeway to pick up. And but I know one of my most favorite gifts from my baby shower was things for me. It was a sitz bath concoction, and it just meant so much that my friend also added something for me, not just for the baby.
Yeah.
Dr. Emma, do you have anything else to share?
That book is one of my favorites also. And there are some doulas and other practitioners like lactation consultants that offer gift cards. And so family members or friends could pay towards the service of a doula or a lactation consultant or a massage or, some sort of body work that mom may need or assistance that mom may need. And that can be more helpful than more onesies than you know what to do with sometimes.
Right? And diapers.
Yeah.
Which are all good.
Yeah. But you're going to buy clothes and diapers on your own, and you may not justify buying a massage at that point for yourself or some other specialty item that it seems extravagant once the baby's there.
No, that's such
Dr.
great.
Emma, are there any books on like what you do that would be helpful for people to read?
Yeah. One of my favorites is called Well-Adjusted Babies.
Okay.
And it's sort of like what to expect when you're expecting, but it's more from a holistic and chiropractic point of view. And then that same author also has a great book called Ticklish, which is a little bit more about child development. But Ticklish, yeah.
Okay.
But it talks a bit about caring for yourself as well. And I love the first 40 days. And I love the book called The Fourth Trimester, which is, lumping postpartum into pregnancy so that it's not forgotten. Instead of having 3 trimesters, they want you to really think that you have 4.
Yeah.
And that
so
is
good. Love it. And I noticed on your website, I was actually going to try to show your websites real quick, but I've never shared my screen while we're doing this. So let's see if this works. It should. I'm so nervous. I'm sure it'll be fine. Share my screen. Here we go. So I tried to go to, it's not gonna. Oh, here we go. So this is I'm just gonna pull up. I think this is Dr. Emma's site here. Can you all see that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I was gonna try to scroll through. So let me just, because I noticed that you're outside. Do you typically do chiropractic care outside, or is this just a cool shot?
It was more for the photography, but I have worked on people outside, especially, we're coming into winter now, but with some home visits or even right outside the office with COVID, then people are a little bit more comfortable not coming into places. It hasn't happened as much in the winter now that it's colder and you never really know what the weather's going to do, but it's fun in the summer to be outside.
And it looks like you've got offices that are in Olympia and also in Tacoma?
Yes. Right now my schedule is split, 2 days in Olympia, 2 days in Tacoma, and office hours are in the mornings only to allow for some home visit time in the afternoon.
Okay, cool. So let's take a look also at Katie's website here. Let me try again here. So happy this is working. It's not like it's hard. I don't know. There we go. So there we go. So you've got this great website called Optimizing Your Wellbeing. Can you tell us a little bit about what we're seeing here?
Yeah, so at least on the homepage, it's just the quick links to the different programs I offer. So I have Feed Your Fertile Body, Feed Your Pregnant Body, and Feed Your Growing Family. So those are 6 module programs that an individual or a couple can take. And it comes with a workbook, and they get information to walk them through the different phases, plus 30-minute coaching calls after each module. And then like a little bit further down, the just general nutrition coaching. So I don't just work with people in preconception, pregnancy, or postpartum. If people have other health goals that they want to work on, I just also do general nutrition coaching for whatever health goals they want to work on, whether it's weight loss or just transitioning from a processed food diet to maybe more whole foods, or lowering their blood pressure, managing their diabetes, whatever it might be. And then the mental skills coaching, that was my first passion in the sports psychology world 10 years ago. So I still do consulting on the mental side. So that's with athletes, exercisers, business professionals, doctors. The possibilities are endless because mental skills goes through so many other fields and not just sport. And then just my blog, which I'll be honest, I haven't updated in a little while. It's a lot to write, a lot of articles, but yeah, that's basically my website in a nutshell.
Cool. And then those modules, is that something that you give them the material, and then I heard you also say that you do like 30-minute coaching?
Yeah.
Okay.
So this was a program created by a nutritional therapy practitioner named Sarah Russell, and I'm just one of the instructors, part of her program. So we have, I think it's over 130-page workbook per program, where there's recipes, activities, exercises, and then full of great information about each phase. And then after they go through the first, it was originally written to do group classes, but group classes aren't so much a thing right now because they're meant to be in person. So I've pivoted to do it one-on-one or with a couple, because just trying to get 6+ people in a group to all meet at the same time can be tough when people are Zoom fatigued. So I do it one-on-one right now. But yeah, to walk them through the program.
Cool. And Dr. Emmett, it looks like on your site you can book your own appointment, which is kind of nice. So you don't have to necessarily get in touch with you. People can actually. And do you do any consultations with people? How does that work?
Yeah. On the website, you can book your consultation, which is complimentary, or your initial visit or returning visits if you're an established practice member. The home visits I do schedule personally, just because I try to make sure travel time isn't too crazy in between visits. So that way I can actually be there on time. But otherwise, you can just go right online and book the appointment. The computer lets you know what times are available. And it's been really easy. No complaints so far. It's definitely a newer thing that I've been trying this year to see how it works.
And I think a question that I always have, and I think I already emailed Dr. Emma about this, but I'm always wondering, do you take insurance? And I know, Dr. Emma, I think you said no, but your prices are pretty reasonable. Katie, what about you? Do you take insurance? No. Okay.
Not.
I chose to be out of network with insurance because a lot of insurance companies, insurance is there for more of an acute case. So when you're in pain or it's a bit more of an emergency, and for bringing a body back into balance in pregnancy, some people don't come with pain or discomfort at all. They're just hoping to optimize their labor and delivery. And then for infants and children, a lot of insurance companies will deny that care because there's no evidence of pain since the child didn't report it themselves. And so it can be a little bit frustrating for both me and the parents when it's not working the way that we would hope it would with insurance. And I decided that just leaving that out of the equation lets me better care for families.
Yeah, okay. All right. Katie, did you want to add anything to that one before we?
No, I'm
Nope.
good.
Okay. So we've got a couple more minutes. Sarah, I don't know if you had anything else you wanted to ask before we close out. She frozen.
No, I am. I just, yeah, I'm just so grateful we had this conversation.
Yeah, this is really helpful.
And that we found the two of you to come on. And I hope that, as people watch this over the next few days or weeks, they really take it to heart and they reach out, or they spread, they share the information with people in their lives, and they share your names, and that we can just continue to spread this message about advocating for moms.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much for both of you for being here and sharing. I'm inspired. You guys did it. So this is what we're here for, to get inspired. So I'm excited. I'm excited to share this video with, just like Sarah said, with like some of my friends that just had babies or thinking about having a kid. So this is really helpful. Thanks again.
No, thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Next week, Sarah and I we've got a really cool show. We're planning on having we're going to talk about mental health for youth and sports.
Oh,
And
cool.
so we both have daughters who play sports, and this has been a tough time for them. And so we're going to have some special people, nothing confirmed yet all the way, so I won't talk about it, but we plan on having like a coach, and we plan on having an athlete, and it'll be a really good show. We're super excited about that because it's hitting close to home for us. We need some tips.
Yeah.
To help our kids.
It's right up your alley, Katie. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna tune in.
Yeah. I should get one of our former coworkers to. Brett's actually, so Katie and I worked with this guy, Brett. He's actually the mental skills coach for Ella's volleyball team. So
okay.
It's a small world.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Brett was the person I thought of. I was like, he works a lot with youth sports, so I thought he might be a good fit to talk to too.
Yeah.
And we'll also put
it's a timely topic.
Yep. We'll also put your websites in the chat so people can see those and be able to click on those. So thanks again for coming on our show. Really appreciate it. It's so nice to meet you both.
Thank you. It was nice to meet you too. Bye.
Okay. Bye.
Have a good evening.